I want to go back again and just point to some of your words that you wrote in your book. It was the last practice of before the congressional baseball game. You were obviously on the Republican team going against the Democratic team. This is a big annual event that happens in Washington every year at the Nationals Stadium. And it is one of those times when it builds that camaraderie, it builds those relationships, some friendly competition on the baseball field. But this morning was different. As you were wrapping up practice, in your book you write, the man emerged from his van carrying an SKS-style semi-automatic rifle with a 40-round banana clip, a fully loaded 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol in a hip holster attached to his waistband, an extra fully loaded 40-round clip for the rifle, and an extra loaded magazine for the pistol, enough ammunition to kill all of us several times over. The morning chill had cooked off to make way for a pure early summer heat, and then there's a bang. I think, that's okay, it's nothing. I'm still standing there in the sun thinking about strategy and Cedric's fastball and my family and my son's first U2 concert and a tractor. I see a tractor and the noise makes sense, except there's no one on the tractor. There's another noise and I can't force it out anymore. I have to allow this new reality to press itself in on me, that someone is shooting. It's strange though, gunfire and baseball don't fit together. And it's also strange that there's a kind of numbness around my waist, a kind of pressure, like a lineman has lowered his shoulder and given me a shove. But it's not a shove. It's a large 7.62 caliber bullet moving at high velocity that's entered my hip and hit my femur, and my leg has effectively detonated. The bones explode. My femur explodes, my pelvis explodes, a puff of bone and metal fragments fly through my pelvis and abdominal cavity, turning my body into a shrapnel-packed bomb going off in a confined space. The support structure that keeps the whole architecture of my body upright is now a broken apart puzzle, and there's no exit wound, so there's nowhere for all that energy to go. Hard things ricochet around like pinballs, severing veins and slicing open organs, shredding through my intestines and destroying my digestive tract, rattling nerves, making everything bleed all at once. But all the damage is internal, except for one almost imperceptibly small hole in my baseball pants, invisible from the outside. I'm trying to move on pulverized leg bones. I feel like someone else is controlling my legs. My legs stop working. It's not pain exactly, and I don't know that the reason I'm falling is because my whole foundation has imploded. I feel instead like the wiring that connects my brain to my legs has been unplugged. I fall. Now I'm on my hands in the dirt, facing the outfield. I don't know why I'm facing the outfield when I was just facing the other way. I don't know that the force with which the bullet hit me has spun me almost all the way around. Things I don't know are replaced by things I do know. The shooting hasn't stopped. I know that. I can hear more and more gunfire. I know that to survive, I have to run away from it. I know I can't run away from it because I can't move my legs. I have to crawl. At this point, you don't realize it, but you're bleeding out.
Yeah, that's, it was all so fast, but everything slowed down, and you don't know what's going on until you realize what's happened. And then, I fall down. I'm trying to get away, but I can't. So I start crawling. Somebody actually had taken a picture that I put in the book, that it's about a 20-foot trail from second base where I was playing in the infield to the outfield, because the shooter was behind third base. I never saw him, but I could hear. So I'm just trying to get away from that. And so I just start crawling away to the outfield until everything gave out. My arms gave out. And then I'm just laying there and still hearing lots of gunfire. And at that point, you just know, okay, something bad's going on inside. I don't know how bad it is. Surely didn't feel as bad as it was, because I almost didn't make it through that day. But your body does sort of shut down the pain that you should be feeling. But I knew, okay, what do I do next when I can't move anymore? And that's when I just said, I've got to pray. There's nothing else I can do. I got to put this in God's hands. And I said some very heady prayers, and, I wanted to see my kids again, wanted to see my family. And and God delivered it. The things I was asking him for that day were very direct personal conversations, but he came through. He was on that field that day.
What was the last thing you remember?
There were a few, once the shooter went down, it seemed like probably a half an hour. It might have only been 10 minutes. But Brad Wenstrup, my colleague from Ohio, you and I served with, he was a medical doctor, a trauma surgeon who served in Iraq, just happened to be there. Normally he would have left earlier, but he had a meeting that had canceled, so he stayed behind a little longer. And look, again, miracles that happened on that field that day. I wouldn't be here if Brad had his normal schedule, because he would have been gone. And, my trauma surgeon told me I would have bled out on the field if not for what Brad did to prepare me. So I made it to the hospital with a 0 blood pressure, by the way. So, literally not even a minute left. And so Brad immediately put a tourniquet on. He started doing some work on me before the paramedics arrived, and then paramedics get me and put me in an ambulance. So they're going to drive me to probably George Washington Hospital. But it's morning. It's like around 7 a.m, Virginia traffic. I would have never made it. And then a helicopter comes, and it was a Parks Department helicopter. And so they turn around, and the whole time I'm thinking, why are we going back? And they bring me out on the ball field again to transfer me to the helicopter. I don't know all this. I'm just thinking, why am I back on the ball field?
Right.
Like I am gonna, and I'm feeling my body shut down. So I'm thinking, like, God, I don't want to bleed out on this ball field. And next thing you know, I'm on the helicopter, and that's really the last thing I remember. And I do remember I picked up I asked the not the pilot, but one of the other people that was in the helicopter if he had a phone, and he gave me his cell phone, and I called my wife, and she didn't remember the number. She didn't know the number, but it was also about 6 a.m. in New Orleans, so she didn't answer, and so I left a message, and at that point I thought this might be it, and I just left a message, that you just don't want to have to leave, but
of course,
that was the last thing I remember. And then 3 days later, I wake up out of a coma, and had made it.